Hi guys and gals, this is Rachel Kirkland, the Modern Shaman, and thanks for joining me for question and answer time. I'm going to go ahead and read the question for this video and just get right into it. So let's begin. Rachel, what happens when you die? Do you go into the fourth or the fifth dimension or wherever? What exactly is in there? Is it spirit, energy, consciousness, both? Neither? Anything? Okay, so where do you go when you die, like in terms of dimension, and then what goes there? Like what is it that goes to that other dimensional space when you die? Cool question. Okay, let me just center in for a second. Okay, so first off, Spirit wants me to clarify one thing, maybe a couple things. They want me to talk about the dimensions because, to be honest with you, people throw that around like the fourth dimension, fifth dimension, I exist in the seventh dimension or wherever, and I don't really know that they realize what they're saying, or maybe they're using it in a different way than it's defined scientifically. Okay? Maybe they're using it in terms of an esoteric meaning or something like that. So let's just clarify that, because that will help you understand like where you go when you go. But I will say you are a multidimensional being, so you exist simultaneously in all of these dimensions. Okay. So first dimension is just a line. Okay. It's one access point, so let's just say the x-axis. Then the second dimension would be a cross-axis point, which would be like, let's say we got an x-axis, we got a y-axis. That's the second dimension. Then we add in a z-axis. That would be the third dimension. So we have like height, width, and depth, right? We have volume, okay, to create the third dimension. Then the fourth dimension is time. Okay, it's a duration, so it's being able to kind of measure a point in terms of sequence or sequentially, all right, to be able to measure that time. So the fifth dimension is if we had a kind of like a tangent universe off of a singular point. So it's if, say for instance, you made a different choice and that created a tangent parallel universe, parallel Earth. So those movies like Sliding Doors and Another Earth, both of those show examples of a fifth dimensional Earth, right? And a lot of times when you read literature and they talk about the ascension and creating a new Earth, they talk about it in terms of fifth dimension, okay? Because it's essentially a branch off from a singular event, as if humanity made a different choice and we created a different parallel Earth, right? It's so similar that you would be able to compare and contrast to where we are now, okay? So the sixth dimension is basically if we had a singular starting point, like the Big Bang, and all possible universes that are created from that singular starting point. Okay? Those would exist in the sixth dimension. The seventh dimension would be if we took all possible universes and had a different branch off starting position. So if that starting point had branched and kind of made a tangent branch, and then all of the possible universes created there, okay, those would exist in that seventh dimensional space. Now the eighth dimensional space would be if those branches branched off, okay? So we've got a big, multiple starting points, and those possible universes created therein, and then those possible universes branching off and creating their own possible universes. Okay, stay with me. The ninth would be if we had all possible starting points that create all possible universes, and those all possible universes branch off and create all possible universes. Okay, so we've got all possible starting points, all possible branches, branching into all possible branches. Okay. And then the 10th would be infinity. Okay? It just encapsulates it all. Now, that's according to string theory, like superstring theory. If you go into super gravity theory or theory of everything, it also adds in that 11th dimension, which is just basically like taking all those other dimensions and compacting them into one singular point. So it's like taking infinity and making it like into a black hole or a start of a new infinity or a new singular point, first dimension. Okay, as if it starts over the alpha and omega. That would be that's according to like super gravity, relativity, whatever. Anyways, that theory of everything adds in that 11th one. Doesn't really matter. Okay, all that being said, those are dimensions. Okay, then we have densities. Okay, and those are different. Density is the amount of light that can be held in a square inch. Okay, and it has mass, it has like volume, it has a weight to it. And it vibrates at a certain level. Okay, and so all of that, even string theory, it's, if you don't know what string theory is, basically that these dimensions are based on. String theory is, sorry, I didn't know I was going to get so scientific on you here, is just the idea that our elemental particles, elemental particles, are created by little like vibrating strings. Little, I don't even know what they call them, filaments, little fibers that vibrate, okay, and then create all possibilities from those little strings, okay, and how they're connected and vibrate and all of that. So all that being said, density has to do with the amount of that, the amount of light of those vibrating strings, the amount of them in a singular square inch. So that differs from form to form. It has to do with kind of like matter and how it's held in a body. Now, I make this distinction because you can be a higher density being existing in the third dimension. Okay, and that's what I think a lot of people mean when they say, I vibrate in the seventh dimension most of the times. And that dimension is like a locale, it's like a space. So that doesn't really make sense if you're walking around here. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of does if you're remote viewing or you're astral traveling, but at the same time, like, there's an aspect of you, I mean, to me, that would just mean I'm totally spaced out and not present in this life. You know what I mean? I'm like living in that meditative zone all the time. Otherwise, I think what most people are talking about is density, their kind of like core vibrational frequency, the amount of light that they hold in their body, their light body, their Merkaba. And all these are just terms, you guys. We're all just trying to describe something and kind of reaching and trying to understand it. So let's talk density. Let me describe these. So the various kind of levels of density. First one would be just kind of like matter or the elements. Okay, like just basic elements, like on the periodic table. Okay. Now, the second density would be the biological life, kind of the sense of growth. Okay, so when they're vibrating enough to create a sense of growth or something is created there, a biological life. Now, the third density would be like when a spirit enters into it. Okay, so that would up the vibration a lot. It would up the amount of light held in a body because essentially you're animating it with consciousness at that point. Third density. Now, fourth density is when that consciousness starts to vibrate in the frequency of love. Okay, the core vibration of a fourth density being is love. When you're around them, you're going to feel love, right? The fifth density, a fifth density being that's vibrating in that core energy is one of wisdom. Okay? And we do move through these. There's a sort of progression to this. There is progression to it. Okay, fifth density, let me think. So then sixth density would be the combination of the two, of wisdom and love, okay, in a unity, in a balance there. All right. Now, okay, so that's First is form, then we get animated form, like biological life, then we get spirit entered form, like Adam and Eve, then we get love vibration, then we get wisdom vibration, then we get the unity vibration of the two, and then the seventh one would be a sense of completion. It really is the unity, or the sense of like one with all, united with the Godhead. Going back to the central source, back to the central sun, it's the unification density. When you're at such a point of light that you become one with the central light, the light. Then the 8th density essentially, again, is kind of similar to the 11th dimension, which is a alpha and omega point where it all starts back over again. So the 8th density, once you're vibrating there, you're also simultaneously starting a new creation to vibrate in the first density, starting over with the elementals there. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. The difference between dimensions and densities. Again, because you can be a certain density being according to where you're vibrating and how much light you're holding in the body in a certain dimensional space. Okay, and in various dimensional spaces. You can exist in all and move in and out of dimensions depending on where you're going or what you're trying to do. So, all that being said, now let's answer your question. I'm already 12 minutes in here. Where do you go when you die? Okay, you go where you want to go. You are not limited to form. Obviously, you leave your physical form. And wherever you are resonating in terms of density, okay, meaning however much light you are emanating and being, and as your core frequency, that part of you that is light, your light body. Some people call that your consciousness. It does have a sense of memory to it. It goes into any of the dimensions at which are relevant for you. Okay? It has access to them all. You have access to them all now. Okay, when I'm meditating, and even when I'm with a client, oftentimes if I'm looking at a probable future, I'm looking at a 5th dimension or a 6th or 7th dimensional parallel existence, possibility, right? So I'm essentially looking at those other dimensional spaces. I'm going there, seeing how it plays out, and sharing that with the client. So all of these dimensions are available. Like I said, you're a multidimensional being existing in all of them simultaneously outside of time. So you can access that at any time. So when you die, you can access that at any time also. You can go to various dimensions. You're just not limited by physical matter. There is a heaviness to our form that this form is very three-dimensional, right? It has height, it has width, it has depth. Okay, so just the skin in the body, when you leave that skin in the body, that can kind of stay here in this three-dimensional experience. And the rest of you that is vibrating at a particular density has the option to go into other dimensional spaces and go from there into all probable existence as it sees fit. Okay, there are certain aspects that also play in here, like the law of attraction. Like you may not be vibrationally attracted to certain dimensions if you don't typically resonate there. Like, meaning if your core vibration or your core vibration is a, say, 4th density being, you're learning about love still and working on the core vibration of love. You may not necessarily be comfortable going into that, say, infinity 10th dimension all the time, because it's a state of total unity, and there's a sense that you haven't quite vibrationally, in terms of density, been able to hold that amount of light in the body, so it might just like explode you. You know what I'm saying? And you'll be kind of attracted to the places that vibrate in harmony with your frequency. Now that's another topic, when we talk about frequency and vibration, okay? Because people throw those terms around all the time too. Now, vibration is the movement. Frequency is the measurement of it. It has a number, right, to it. And a color on the color spectrum. And the light spectrum. Okay, I think I've answered it. We went into 15 minutes, and that more so went like a little scientific discussion on the dimensions of space according to superstring theory and the densities of consciousness according to the law of one. But I do feel like it's relevant. And, you know, to answer your question, it's kind of easy because you can go into any dimensional space at which is comfortable for you to resonate when you leave this body. You're not limited to 3D. And then also in terms of what you are, like, are you spirit, consciousness, energy? You are all of those things. And inhabit all of those, utilize all of those. Okay. I love you guys. Hope that was helpful.